I'm losing my mind a little bit. I did not think this could be a thing, and of course, I am talking about Lunar Remastered Collection, which is happening out of nowhere. They just dropped it at a Sony thing. What? Even what? Okay, let's talk a little bit about it. If you don't know what Lunar is, it's a series of games which originally released on the Sega CD, then they released again on the Sega Saturn, then they released again on the PlayStation 1, and then they released one of them again on the PSP with entirely new art and different stuff. It was basically a remake at that point. And now they're releasing both games in a collection completely remastered. And I'm absolutely dying to talk about it because these are two of my favorite games of all time. Oh my god. I played these games as the PS1 version for the first time when I was in my teens or something, somewhere around there, and I absolutely loved them. Everything was just done so well. The combat system is simple but fun and at times challenging but not too challenging. They have amazing characters that you grow to really care about over the course of both of the games, as this classic story that is for me an archetype of what this kind of game should be, at least for that period of time, even more so than Final Fantasy in some ways, mostly because I'm a sucker for a really good romance story. And the two Lunar games have some of the best romances in games, and it isn't just that they do, something particularly different or crazy or well, it's just the build-up is done in such a great way. The relationships are organic in an interesting way. For example, in Lunar Eternal Blue, when you meet the heroine of the story, you meet her pretty early, and she joins your party. But when she first joins, she's very cold and distant, and this relationship kind of plays out also in the gameplay as well as in the story moments. She slowly starts to change the way that she uses her spells over time. She really starts to open up to Hero, which is the name of the main character in Lunar 2. And every character has their own story that begins before they join the party. This is something that in stories is really important. Something very key that a lot of stories, not just in games but in all types of media, fail to do. In many games, the only story that characters have is anything that's related to the plot. So it's just tied to the plot, or it's tied to the main character, and it's tied to the relationship with the main character. But in Lunar, every character has their own challenges and their own goals, and these things that they're trying to accomplish. And all of them play out in a really satisfying way over the course of the story, culminating with a very clear moment where you learn more about that character's story. So one of the things that every game developer could learn from the Lunar series is the way to do characters, but also the way to do epilogues, and that is something that's really important in the Lunar series. It always bothered me when you got to the end of a story and it just abruptly ends. You don't learn about what happened to the cast of characters that you just spent 50 hours with, or if you do, it's some little throwaway sentence. It's Alex ran off with his love forever, and you're like, what? He didn't even love anyone the whole game. But yeah, so Lunar gives you these epilogues that tie up the ends for all of the characters. You can find them moving on to the next steps of their lives when you find them in the epilogue, and then they kind of give you a nice ending for the main character to cap it all off. And even with how satisfying those endings felt, I couldn't help but feel sad when the games ended, because it's just such an enjoyable experience for me. So obviously I didn't want that to end, and that's one of the best feelings that you can get in any game. There's always been this big debate for people on where to play the Lunar series, because obviously it hasn't been on any consoles that are even close to modern at this point. And I'd honestly kind of written off the idea that they would get remasters, just because, Studio Alex doesn't exist. It literally got blown up by Game Arts in a lawsuit. So seeing that both of these games are being put into a collection and put onto modern consoles is absolutely incredible. I'm so excited for people to finally get to experience these games. I'm not gonna lie, seeing these two games in HD hit me right in the feels. And we're going to be playing them fairly soon too. The release of the Remastered Collection is going to be in spring of 2025. And they look great. They look great. I just want them to take everything, maybe HDify it a little bit, and just spit it out. Exactly the way that they were. From what I can tell, it looks like they're both based on the complete editions of both Lunar games that were made by Working Designs, and it sounds like they've kept the voices from those versions too. I'll have to check to see if that's actually the case. I'm not completely sure on that. Sounds like they did though, which is great because I think that those two versions are the best versions of the games. It'll be interesting to see what translation they go with too, because they could go with like a new translation, or they could keep the quirky 90s reference-ridden translations from Working Designs. And I wouldn't mind either, honestly. I really love the Working Designs versions, but it could be interesting to see something that is more straightforward and has, less references to Bill Clinton. But either way, I'm super excited about this. Let me know if you're excited too in the comments. Thanks for watching.